And welcome back to our video on demand section as we talk to candidates in this election season today. We've got property appraiser candidate on the Republican side, Dana Blickley here. Dana, thanks for taking the extra time. I'm glad you're with us.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about this race. You made it through the primary. You ousted a long-term Republican property appraiser here in the county. You also outlasted another Republican opponent. What did you learn out of the primary race?
Many things. Probably the most important lesson is that the voters do appreciate having candidates knock on their doors and talk to them personally about the office and what they bring to the table and why their vision and their platform is what's best for the office. So that was the first lesson. The second lesson is you have to not be concerned about what your opponents are doing. And you simply stay on your message, deliver your platform and your vision to the voters, and let whatever's going to happen outside of that happen. All
right, very good. As you talk to the voters, as you go door to door, and I've heard nothing but raves about how you conducted this campaign, that you did it the way it needed to be done.
Thank you.
I can imagine that it would be quite an education process for most of the voters. I got to tell you, before I started interviewing you guys in the primary season, kind of ignorant about the functions of that office, and I thought you did a good job explaining that, but is it a big education process as you're out there?
Yes, it is, for both the taxpayers and for myself, okay? For them in terms of making them aware of what the responsibilities are and what the duties are of the office and of this particular elected official, and what the job requires, who we answer to, how valuations are determined, how our budget is funded, all of those types of things. Certainly that gave me an opportunity to explain that information and provide that information to taxpayers. What it did for me was it enabled me to talk to them and find out what was important to them, what they felt was going well with that office, what they felt was not going well with that office, what they thought that office was responsible for versus what the office actually does do. So it was a great learning experience for both myself and the taxpayers.
Based on what you've learned and your knowledge of the job already, because you were in the property appraiser's office for some 20-plus years.
Right.
How does that office operate differently if you're elected on November 6th?
Well, we open the doors. We become much more transparent. We become much more participatory in the process. We're not looked on as an adversary in terms of the other constitutional offices or the taxing authorities or the taxpayers that need our information. We show up, we do our jobs. We not only meet the standards in terms of what we submit to the Florida Department of Revenue for approval, but we exceed those standards, Bill. I don't just don't want to be status quo. When I talked to you before about my vision and what I wanted for this office, I want to be the best. I want to be the model constitutional office that the other 66 jurisdictions look to for best practices. So that's my goal.
What's it going to take to change it and make that happen? Because I'm assuming you think it's not doing that now.
No, a lot of perseverance, a lot of long days, a lot of hard work, a lot of folks that are currently there now that are going to be experiencing a new culture. They're going to be empowered to do their jobs, to bring their ideas to the table, bring their efficiencies to the table, and work as a team.
You worked there before. Do you expect any difficulties as you go back if you're elected here? When it comes to changing how things have done? Institutions can be really difficult to change. What do you expect?
Sure. Well, we know that not everybody embraces change. I mean, we know that not just from this office or my experience or your experience, but some folks are a little bit hesitant of change. They're very comfortable with where they're at. Do I think that there will potentially be a few of those folks? Possibly. But I think at the end of the day, everybody kind of wants the same thing. They want to go to work. They want to produce something they can be proud of. They want to be a part of something that is productive, that is positive. And I think for the most part that most folks will embrace that.
You mentioned communication with other constitutionals, taxing authorities, and even the people. But let's stay within the realm of the other officials that you have to deal with. The taxing authorities need your information in order to set their budgets and to set their tax rates, those kind of things. And the county commission involved in let's face it, you're operating out of county-maintained and owned facilities. So those communications are going to be essential. Where are they wrong now, and what's it take to make them right?
Well, they're adversarial. the current official has made a campaign out of the bad taxing authorities and the bad county commission, and whenever they disagree with the other constitutional offices for whatever they're doing, that they're bad and the property appraiser's office is wrong, and that just isn't the case. Again, it is not our duty and responsibility to agree with the county commission in terms of how they vote every other Tuesday. It's our job to make sure that they have information that they need to do whatever it is they need to do in terms of maintaining facilities, 911 services, fire services, setting tax rates, having information available to them for property acquisition or property control, or answering to their constituents and the taxpayers that are requesting information from them that sometimes involves getting information from this office.
Are the resources that exist now for the property appraiser's office, going from budget to vehicles to equipment, are those resources, do they appear to be adequate? Or do you have a budget that's been existing that will allow you to do the job the way you need to do it?
Adequate, but not allocated properly.
Tell me about the changes that you'd like to see then.
Well, we talked a little bit about that before in terms of having managers that supervise assistant managers, that supervise lead workers, that supervise a employee. Not appropriate. A fleet of vehicles sitting in the parking lot, not appropriate. Throwing resources and taxpayer dollars, throwing good money over bad on antiquated technologies, not appropriate. So those are the areas that we will concentrate on in making sure that we reallocate those resources to make sure that we are producing accurate, equitable, and appropriate assessments.
So even with a change in potential computer systems, you see the budget as adequate as it is without needing to go somewhere and say, give us more money?
I do.
Let's talk about the value of matter of fact, you'd mentioned the current office holder in a previous answer. I seem to recall ads during that campaign or signs during the campaign that were things like saving taxpayers money or dropping your tax rates, those kind of things. Is that an appropriate role of the property appraiser? Is that what the appraiser's there to do? Explain that part of the job.
It is not. It is not. As a matter of fact, it's legally impermissible. It would be against the law. It would be against the law for me to establish your value based on your ability to pay. Mm-hmm. So the property appraiser does not exist to make sure that your assessment is low enough for it to be an appropriate tax bill for you. Okay, the property appraiser's office also does not exist to make sure that values are high enough for municipalities in the county to be able to fund their services. That is not the role. Hence the reason it is an independent function from taxing authorities. If you have the fox guarding the hen house, you have a bad situation there. That's why property appraisers do not set tax rates. Property appraisers establish and report value, and that information is extended to the tax collector after all of those individuals establish their tax rate. So those are two completely independent functions. For me to tell you that if you vote for me, your taxes will go down would be disingenuous.
Are the works of the property appraiser's office currently being done fairly in your estimation?
Not in my estimation, and not by the Florida Department of Revenue's estimation. So we have had years with this current administration where our level of assessment has been the second highest in the state. And we have followed that up the subsequent year with having double-digit decreases that are larger than any other decrease in the entire state of Florida. So I will tell you that not just based on my observations, but based on the Florida Department of Revenue, the oversight agency that either approves or disapproves a role, they have said, current administration, you are not doing well. Yes, your assessment roll passed, but in terms of you getting your report card, you are certainly not getting an A. You're getting a C. You're passing.
I'm thinking voters may be thinking that means tax rates are going up at some point, or valuations are going up at some point as this process goes forward.
Valuations will only go up if assessments are incorrect or if the buyers and sellers indicate that they will. Those would be the only two instances where values would go up. When you have a level of assessment of 103.4, that indicates that values have to come down, or you're going to be continually assessing folks for higher values than what buyers and sellers are willing to transact property for.
You said something during the radio show that, in all honesty, surprised me just a little bit, and that is that you would reopen the Merritt Island office.
Yes.
Give me your rationale for that and whether or not there's budgeting there to do that.
Well, the last I checked with the property appraiser's office, just the full service part of the office had been closed. There were still folks working out of the Merritt Island office, which means that there's still space there. So if there is still space available, it is disingenuous to have that space available only for employees to come and go from that office. That office should be open as a full-service branch. If not, all of the folks that live in the Merritt Island area, and it's a heavily populated barrier island, their only option is to go to Titusville or to travel to Vieira. So that's not appropriate. Certainly there's enough folks and there's a need for that branch office.
Do the dollars exist in the property appraiser's budget, as you anticipate it to be if you're elected, to open that office without costing additional dollars?
Absolutely.
All right, very good. Just a little bit of time left. What do you see as the primary issue in this race for you as we go into November 6th?
The primary issue is and has to be accurate, uniform, equitable assessments, because at the end of the day, that is our primary job, to make sure that we adequately discover, list, and value properties. Now, having said that, we certainly have a breakdown in communication. I will tell you, after visiting 21,000 homes, there are a myriad of exemptions that a lot of our seniors qualify for, and they have no idea that they exist. So that means that we get an F in making sure that we get information available to folks. Not everybody has a computer, so to simply take and make a page on our website saying these are all the exemptions, here's what you need to qualify, for the 82-year-old elderly gentleman that meets an income requirement that has no computer, he has no access to that information. So we have to do better. We have to have community outreach programs. We have to work with other non-for-profits and other agencies that reach folks and get our information to them. So not only is our communication, we've had a breakdown in communication with taxing authorities in that respect and governmental agencies, but we've also been disingenuous to some of our populations that need to have access to that information.
Time flies when we're having fun. Sadly, we are out of it. If voters need more information on you, your campaign, or what your thoughts are, how do they find it?
There's 3 ways to get me. The first is through my website, which is my name, www.danablickley.com. They can also contact me on my cell number. It's my personal cell. It's on 25,000 cards out there. It's on my website. That number is 321-514-3176.
All right. Very good. Dana Blickley, thank you so much. If you find yourself elected, we'll look forward to having you back in here. Of course, we'll have you and your opponent back in the Friday before the election. So
thank you, sir.
Look forward to that. And we'll look forward to having you back here. WMMBAM.com, keyword video. Thanks for checking in.